Hello.
Howdy.
What's up, man? Can you
What
hear me
is?
all right?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. What is up with you?
Just chilling, dude. Let's talk about Assange. You know,
Yeah.
he's one of the most important whistleblowers in history. And you said, I want Assange to die in a CIA black site just because it would trigger all the worst people on Twitter. I mean, this just like that kind of spite-based politics is just like really weird to me. And it's like mindlessly like sociopathic it comes off as. So like do you have any like justification for that?
Okay. So I understand you probably know this, and it probably doesn't absolve me of my perceived sins, but that was a joke. Um,
Well,
the,
I would think that, but then you went on to say the fact that he's incredibly annoying and he's like conservative only adds to my conviction. So, like,
that was
also what has he done that is like conservative?
that was after I said I'd still feel that way if he'd only leaked info to help Bernie. The joke was that like even if he was exclusively politically beneficial to me, that I would still feel that way because I want to annoy the people on Twitter so badly. I swear to you, it was a joke. It's like when people say it's like when people talk
Okay.
about like killing people so there's less people in traffic, right? Like one of those like the joke is I'll go to any extreme if it means that I'll overcome this petty inconvenience. In this case, people on Twitter being annoying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just like a different version of like MAGA chuds saying, you know, lock her up. Or, you know, Nazis making jokes about like Anne Frank and other people they want to kill. You know, it's weird to me that someone who considers himself a leftist sounds, you know, like identical to some of the worst criminals in the CIA and pundits on Fox News.
Well, I think they're similar in the sense that they're jokes, but I don't think that they're being used to underlie any severe political point, other than the fact that I do hate some people on Twitter, which, to be fair, don't we all? I mean, I think it's a commonality we all have.
Okay. So
So to be clear,
you don't think
oh, sorry.
Julian Assange should die in a CIA black site? You don't want him
No, I don't want to.
because I
No,
think it
no.
is political. I mean, considering like his life has been in danger
Yeah,
for a
no.
while now. I mean,
No, I mean, I make a lot of edgy jokes. I think, if anything, it speaks to my point about the fragility of some types of people on Twitter. Not saying you, I mean the people who clipped it. Because I make edgy jokes about, like, this group of people should die, this group of people should die, whatever. But the one that gets clipped is the one about him, which is funny to me, you know, because I've made, like, way edgier jokes than that. But that's the one that got a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist mad at me. So, so, you know, my issue is that people who like Assange on Twitter are really annoying. That's my big political get on this. And I can prove that mathematically by looking at them and seeing them talk about Julian Assange. The joke was just like their annoying behavior inconveniences me. If you want my real political position on Assange, I don't like the guy, but I do value whistleblowing heavily. So I think that, you know, I don't think he should be, you know, prosecuted for that. I think he should be made legally invulnerable to those claims and that he should stop his life on the run. I've heard some weird shit about him and sexual misconduct. I don't know how true that is because I never really looked into it, but he can maybe stand trial for that if it's real. Outside of that, yeah, I think that, you know, whistleblowing is as American as apple pie.
then I guess I would ask, why don't you like him? What has he done to
Oh,
make you not like him?
honest to God, he just
Is it just
seems.
people on Twitter? Like,
Well, he has a bad fan club, but no, it's his behavior. I think that a lot of the, well, first of all, he kind of seems like a dick, I think, but a lot of it is also the way in which he's released information has always seemed rather partisan. To me, like like he has a particular beef out. It's known, you know, he doesn't like Hillary Clinton, obviously, but I don't, so fine. It seems like the way in which he released information was a bit irresponsible, and it corresponded heavily to a desire to take down the DNC in a way that I thought was irresponsible. The kind of a selective release of misinformation. He did refrain from releasing some stuff on the GOP. You know, he said like, you know, what was it? They're already so bad I don't even need to, or something like that. This was a while ago. It was I'm sure you'll remember. I'm working off half-baked memories here, but my impression has always been that he's been irresponsible in the political engagement that he's had. It's one of the reasons why RT really likes him. I think he serves a kind of right wing through through implicit suggestion agenda, which I'm not a fan of.
I would have to completely disagree with that. It's funny, one of his most recent leaks in 2021 published 17,000 documents from Spanish far-right groups called Haste Or and Citizen Go. Includes spreadsheets of donors and members, strategy and planning documents, letters, financial charts, and legal and training documents. In 2018, he published documents detailing procedures and abuses at ICE facilities. Half of his career is leaking, war crimes. So I don't see how you would say that's far right or conservative by any means. I mean, most of what he stands for is left-wing causes and, having open information.
Yeah, I think it's not, to be clear, I don't just think he's a run-of-the-mill conservative. I think that he's and I could look into this more. I haven't talked much about Assange on my channel. The impression that I get is that he's kind of like RT's perfect baby boy in a way, in that his presence destabilizes the United States, which fine, that's fine, but he does so in a way which contributes to some narratives over others. I've always kind of gotten the feeling that RT's affirmation of him has been indicative of his love for a different geopolitical set of interests. And now, now to argue this, we would need to pull together like the bajillions of shit that WikiLeaks has thrown out there. And I don't want to make an argument by numbers here, but do you think there's any merit to the idea that he might lean in with like Russian geopolitical interests, and that a lot of what he's done has been kind of in line with that? Because sometimes stuff that seems left-wing is in that line, like leaking stuff about the Iraq War makes America look really bad. There's a lot of variance there in terms of geopolitical interest.
I mean, America is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Why shouldn't we have people make America look like what it is?
Well, because, and this was my issue with the DNC GOP.
It seems like you want to cover up for American exceptionalism, and it sounds like that's what you want, is for us to not know about war crimes and that it's a bad thing for America to look bad.
No, I just want fair narratives. It's my issue with the DNC GOP thing. See, I don't like the DNC, but if you leak info on the DNC but refuse to on the GOP, you're lying by omission. Selective transparency is essentially the same as dishonesty, because you create the impression of, no wrongdoing on the other side of things. So when I say, making America look bad is awesome, but it has to be done in a geopolitically responsible way. So when you look at RT, for example, there's tons of legitimate criticisms of the American government that go through people who are part of the RT network. And I'm okay with the things they say, but I don't like the fact that they're saying it as part of an implicitly dishonest scheme to prioritize some geopolitical interests over others. Kind of like how North Korea is really, really bad. But I hate it when conservatives, or China's bad, but I hate it when conservatives will scream about that at the top of their lungs, talking about all these human rights abuses and this, that, or the other, because they're doing it to cover up for America, sort of nationalistic, juxtaposition they take advantage of.
Yeah. So your first point, I mean, again, I don't think he's trying to cover up for conservatives or the GOP in any way. I mean, one of his most recent leaks was just about how the Trump administration and the CIA and Mike Pompeo plotted to kill him, plotted to assassinate him at the highest levels of government.
Assassinate who?
Assange.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, this is one of his more recent leaks, like I just said. I mean, the CIA, Trump administration, and Pompeo plotted to kill him. I mean, him releasing that, I don't see how that's covering up for the GOP in any way when he's, showing us how fucking evil they are.
Well, there's a lot of variance, right? I mean, Russia has been doing sort of a hot and cold game with the Trump administration for a while. And again, WikiLeaks has put out so much stuff that you could probably make an argument for Assange belonging to any political position based on like this, that, or the other. I can't really argue in terms of individual leaks because you probably know way more about them than I do. I don't know about all these leaks.
Yeah.
It's just the impression I've gotten, I guess, from the years of stuff that he's done, the info that I've read. But beyond that, I mean, do you agree? Let's agree on the principle at least. Would you agree that it's bad to attack or reveal information about an institution, but not do so about other parallel institutions in a way that kind of creates maybe a misleading representation of both?
Well, I mean, that would imply that, you know, he has information on other stuff and that he's holding it back, which I haven't seen any evidence of. Like,
Didn't he say that with the
he's
GOP?
released stuff on Russia before. And what about the GOP?
Well, didn't he say that about the GOP, that he refrained from releasing stuff on him?
I don't know. Did he? I haven't seen that. I'd have to
No,
look.
I'm sorry. I'm not a tremendous expert on this stuff.
Yeah.
What do you want done with Assange?
Well, I think he should be granted, you know, clemency by the U.S. He should be given, you know, sanctuary here, of course, because he's a hero, just like Chelsea Manning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chelsea Manning was the one that gave him the videos of the helicopters killing 2 Reuters journalists and 9 other guys and wounding 2 kids in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can go over some of the other like really important stuff he's done. I think it's important for people to know, especially, you know, a big YouTuber like you with such a big platform. I mean, if you're going to talk about him, I think you should at least, you know, know some of the stuff he's done. In 2007, he released the Guantanamo Bay files, reported that 150 innocent Afghans and Pakistanis, including farmers, chefs, and drivers, were held for years without charges. Some of the oldest and youngest detainees were an 89-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy with fragile mental and physical health conditions. It showed that military dogs were used to intimidate prisoners. It showed that new prisoners were held in isolation for 2 weeks to make them more pliable. And it included procedures for transferring prisoners and methods of evading protocols of the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue any of those things are good.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are. I'm just, you know, I think we should know about some of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of things. I mean, you know, lots of valuable stuff from the Iraq War that I haven't covered as well. I mean, if you're going back as far as 2007, I was just a twinkle in my father's eye back then. Look, if we're to speak in all the stuff that's been done through WikiLeaks, you know, tremendously important stuff and certainly worthy of knowing about. But in terms of Assange specifically, I mean, what do you think his political leanings are?
I mean, from everything I've seen, he seems like a neutral actor. I can't say that he's, you know, pro right wing anything. I haven't seen any of that. I mean, he's released, you know, vital information about the Saudi U.S. ties. You know, Saudi Arabia is, of course, a far right government.
Well, it's also a government that tends to side more with us than with Russia, right?
Yeah, sure. But like I said, he's like, there are plenty of leaks about Russia, too.
I'd be interested in seeing those. It wouldn't be, it's not impossible that he's released stuff. I'd wonder about its severity. Okay. Russia is, of course,
you think he's a Russian actor, though?
Well, I think he falls more in line with those interests geopolitically. I don't think it's conspiratorial to say that. You know, the world is broken up into basically 2 geopolitical blocks, at least one's operating at our scale, you know. There's a kind of, well, no, China and Russia aren't really aligned. 3, US, China, and Russia. And I think those are the biggest, you know, and of course, Western Europe falls in with us, and, you know, China's doing their work. Depending on where you want to draw those lines, you could get in an incredibly thoroughly divided number of geopolitical blocks. But I don't think it's unreasonable to believe there are some whose interests would align more closely with Russia than with the United States.
I mean, that's fine, but I even if that were true, I don't see how that would be an argument for, you know, treating him as like a hostile actor that should be drone striked or put in a CIA black site. Because I mean, this is something that a lot of people actually want to do with him. I mean, people at the highest levels of power.
Yeah.
I mean, Obama, asked, wanted him locked up after the Afghan file leaks.
Well, Obama is cringe. I mean, I'm not going to defend that. No, yeah, I know there are certainly. I'm not. The statement was a joke. I engage in fanciful hyperbole all the time. I do think, I don't want him prosecuted for whistleblowing. I do, I guess, take issue if he actually is like a Russian geopolitical actor, or even one who just aligns more with that side of things. I'm not saying he's like on the payroll
That would be
of Putin
based
or whatever.
if he was.
Why so?
I mean, is America? I mean, like this. Okay. So you think America is like what, the good guy, and that Russia is like the bad guy?
No, I think they're all bad guys, but I do think less
Okay.
of Russia than America.
Okay. Well, that's kind of weird. I mean, who has the highest body count in the past couple decades?
Well, I don't actually know. There are probably some countries that have killed more than America in the past few decades. But we can say, in terms of people who have been killed, it's undeniably America.
No.
We've killed more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you judging that off of who's worse?
Well, I think that a lot of the damage America has done has stemmed from our geopolitical dominance. It's not necessarily a product of us being uniquely cruel. It's a product of us being uniquely powerful. I think that if any other country in the world, China, Russia, some Western European country, whatever, were in our position of geopolitical power, they would act comparably, similarly. It's not like America's the only country that engages in ruthless neocolonialism, that cracks down on foreign countries, political demonstrations, that will engage in coups. We're just the best at it because we have the most power. My concern is that Russia and China are less powerful, and they've done less harm as a product of that, but they are worse. They're anti-democratic, they're more ruthless than we are. So to that extent, I think that if you're to be relativistic
More
about
ruthless.
it, we'd be the good guys, but I think that's a very low bar. I mean, really, we're all bad.
I mean, maybe, more ruthless when it comes to domestic policy, but I don't see how you can make that argument for foreign policy.
I mean,
have we? When was the last time China fucking drone striked a hospital or a funeral?
I mean, if we're talking about foreign policy, a lot of it is limited by our relative power. But in terms of what they've done abroad, I mean, domestically, the Xinjiang province is pretty telling, and China has with China with was it Nepal? No, what they did with Tibet, I mean, they've actually like invaded and occupied. Not just like what we did, where we tried to like pump up a puppet government, but they've actually conquered territory. Russia as well with Crimea. That's very scary stuff nowadays. In a post-nuclear world.
Yeah. Well, I don't see how you can make the argument that they're more of a threat and that they're so much worse when we have 10 times a greater military spending than the next 10 freaking countries combined. I mean,
what do you think we're going to do with that?
What do you mean? What have we been doing with it for the past 30, 40 years? We've been using it on fucking people.
Well, most of it is...
You make the bombs, you got to drop them on someone.
Well, most of it goes towards the many, many military bases we have around the world, many of which are in allied countries. In terms of active ground warfare or invasions, I don't think America's that committed to that project these days. Most of what we do abroad seems to be about maintaining the relative geopolitical dominance of Israel, I think. Or like sort of involving ourselves in proxy conflicts. In terms of like, foreign involvement, you could argue that recently Russia may have even been worse considering their support of Assad, right? I mean, gassing his own civilians. A lot of people have died in the
we support the Saudis. They're both bad.
Yeah, that's true. Though a critical difference, though, is that America tends not to defend the Saudis. We sell them arms and don't talk about them in the media. Whereas Russia has made it a part of their state propaganda network to explicitly defend Assad and the Syrian government, which to me suggests that it's not just about what it is with America, which is, the arms dealers and what have you. With them, it's a deliberate political, you know, motivation to affect those you know, those differences. I bet most Americans don't even know the name of, you know, any Saudi politician. It's not something we talk about, I don't think.
Yeah.
You get what I
All
mean,
right.
though, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty fucking beat. I've had a long day. You lost me a little bit there, so my apologies on that.
That's okay. We all have to
but
work. I mean, I say that, you know, from a position of privilege, but I get that. I get tired arguing with chat. I know how it is. Well, anyway,
all
you
right, well,
take
is there
care,
anything
okay?
else? I think I'm all set. Yeah. All
No,
right.
no.
Have a good night.
If it's sleepy time, have a good night.
All right. Peace.
Peace. It wasn't too bad. No, it wasn't. I think the issue is, like, I've read so much stuff over the past, like, 5 years about how Assange is sussy-wussy, and that doesn't make me want him to be prosecuted for the whistleblowing. But I've read so much stuff, and I could look into it, and there's so much to look into, and I could spend a ton of time looking into it, but the issue is, I don't want him prosecuted for whistleblowing. So I would be learning about all of that for the specific purpose of just being able to say, I think he's sussy-wussy, but also I agree with you in the idea that he shouldn't be prosecuted. Like, I'd be putting all that effort into agreeing with them while being contrarian about it, which to me seems completely worthless in terms of time expenditure. But, you know, maybe I should. You don't do yourself any favors when you say you hope he does to trigger people on Twitter, dog. First of all, okay, I thought that would be interpreted broadly as a joke. The idea that I want a person to die in a CIA black site to anger people on Twitter, to me, I thought this would be read as a joke. Like before, after fuck, what was the last time I got in trouble for a dry joke that didn't land? It was when I said, you guys only care about X. Oh, the Rittenhouse thing. When Rittenhouse was exonerated of his crimes, and I did a video, and I said, now I know you guys. I know you only cared to see people on Twitter mad. And there were people in the YouTube comments of my video acting like I was being horrible for saying they only care. I was like, I was joking. I thought it was obvious I was joking. I was saying you only cared for Twitter. Like, but it is true that without any other context, the Julian Assange stuff, I think, like, you know, maybe, or what you've heard of me. To be fair, I was a little wait, what, when you did that Assange bit, though I knew it was obviously a joke. The delivery felt a little muddled and disjointed. I thought it was funny. Like just 2 days before that, I was doing my. We've all been informants. I've been an informant. I've informed on NT. We've all been informants. Everyone's been, and like people again on Twitter took it seriously. And what I'm learning from this is that the Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, whatever crowd, you know, they don't have a good sense of humor, which I already knew, but it's still funny. Anyway, that was fun. Have you thought that maybe you're just not funny? I think it every day, and then I immediately think otherwise. Because I'm very funny.